Right, now quickly to move on to scenarios, an involvement strategy for any particular development situation. We've developed this slightly specific graphic way of representing these scenarios, and there may be better ways of doing this, which I'd be interested to hear about. But you can see down the left-hand side here, we've got a timeline. And then here we have basically a series of methods which take place in sequence. Now the scenario in this particular case we call the local neighbourhood initiative. So this is where local people in a rundown neighbourhood and agencies work with them to take the initiative to speed up the regeneration process. And in this particular case we start off with a process planning session. At this process planning session, it's decided to organise a planning weekend, and it's decided to organise that in about 9 months' time. So they set up a steering group to do this. They appoint a coordinator, a local resident, who helps organise this event, and then the planning weekend is held. Now, at that point, they decide, they develop an action plan, and so then the steering group forms into a development forum. They set up a neighbourhood planning office in the 19th month to implement the action plan. And then 1 year after the planning weekend, they held a review session. And then at this point, they established the development forum turns into a development trust. So they establish a development trust with full legal status and so on. Now, this is very interesting because this isn't a blueprint. This isn't the way it has to happen, but it's a way that it can happen. It's a possible way that has happened, and it's based on real examples, but it is a scenario that works. And so you can produce similar scenarios for a range of different situations. Derelict site reuse. This is actually based on the photographs I showed you earlier of the ideas competition. So it's basically research on land use. There's a public meeting or forum. An ideas competition is held. A development partnership is established. Art workshops are organised. Open house or street stall. Consult with people and so on. I'm not going to run through these in great detail now. You can look at them online or in one of the books. But you can understand the principles. And here's one for a community-led plan. So this is where a parish or parish plan, a local action plan or community plan is produced by a village or neighbourhood. And here we see one for a neighbourhood development plan, which is a new kind of plan which is being developed in the UK now in relationship to the localism agenda. So I wanted to just introduce the idea of programs of community planning where governments or other organisations use community planning to further their own particular objectives. Neighbourhood planning in the UK is a new bottom tier of the planning system. It's a right, not a legal responsibility, and it's part of the localism agenda of the coalition government's big society. There's flexibility for each plan to be different, providing certain basic conditions of it's a positive, the intention is that it has a positive, not a negative effect on growth, because the neighbourhood plans have to comply with the housing allocations, for instance, housing requirements of the local plan, the higher level plan. And the government has set up support packages to help people with these neighbourhood plans, and they're spending £9.6 million over the next 3 years to help people do this. At the moment, as of April 2013, where we are now, 500 plans are underway. Only one has been completed, and so it's really too early to assess whether it's going to work, and it's too early to assess what the impact is going to be. But it's a very interesting development, and it is a kind of systematic, organised programme by government. And you can find out more on that from this Webley. But it's interesting in terms of introducing the concept of programmes, and that's something that we're going to include in the next edition of the book, is the idea of programmes which are run by governments or big charitable organisations to kind of systemise community planning at the local level.